Kieran, what are the implications of AI vision on safety?
It's a really interesting question.
Yep.
This is new technology, and I don't think we've thought this through. I certainly don't have all the answers.
Yep.
But I do have some things I'll flag. There are some fairly obvious ones to do with insurances. I naively was talking to an insurance company and asked, would this decrease your insurance premiums if you got this kind of technology to improve safety and therefore your risk profile and number of accidents? And they laughed and said, no, it will increase your insurance premiums if you don't have it. So at some point, it'll be economically, it would be more expensive to not have these kind of safety systems, whether it's ours or anybody else's, than it will be just due to insurances. So that's kind of step one. The second one, in Australia at least, we have the new industrial manslaughter laws, and it's no longer enough to be reactive. You have to be proactive.
Can you just explain for the listeners what the manslaughter laws actually mean?
Yeah, so the industrial manslaughter laws.
Simple terms.
I'm certainly no lawyer, so at a very high level, from a simple engineer, the directors are now also personally liable, and you have to be proactive in that. You can't say, I didn't know. If a system, I think the word that they use is practicable.
Yeah.
So if it's economically viable, if it's technically viable, all these sorts of things. So if a system was $1 million, that's not economically viable. If it took you 3 months to install and train, that's not viable. But if a widget is $10,000 and it took you a day to install, if it's 5,000, at some point it's practicable. So it gets to the point where you have to have it, because if you didn't, then the industrial manslaughter laws, if you ever had a serious or fatal accident, unfortunately, the directors are now liable for that, as well as the company.
Right. Interesting.
So you get this interesting...
The directors are personally liable?
Yes.
Wow. That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So that is a engineer's oversimplification, but that's the
disclaimer.
Idea.
We'll put the disclaimer. The engineer's view of the manslaughter laws.
So that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
The other one that I find fascinating is, what is safe? And it sounds like a really obvious question. But if I take 10 videos at random from our blind sight systems on machines, and I give them to work crews, and I give them to the safety team, and I give them to executive, and I say, tell me, is that safe or unsafe, or risky or not risky, or whichever synonyms you prefer? Those three groups of people will not put them in the same buckets.
Okay.
And why this is problematic is now there is no universal view within that same company about what constitutes safe and unsafe. Because there has to be agreement on that, because as you go through and review all our detections, they all come streaming in and you can put them into categories. Who does that? And what is the objective standard that they are using to decide that? I don't know the answer to that, and every company will be slightly different. So if I talk to above ground mining operations, if you get within 10 meters of that machine, that's sort of the end of you. If you're in underground mining operations, if you're within a meter, as long as you're a meter away from that machine, that's okay, because the tunnels are very narrow.
Yeah.
So you got the same industry, mining, who's saying 1 meter versus 10 meters. When you're talking to rail teams, anything past a slew radius on a high rail machine is essentially irrelevant, because it can only go backwards and forwards and slew. Yep. So that might be 3 or 4 meters. So it's very difficult to decide what safe is, because if you're basing it purely on distance, there is an example of 1, 3, 4 to 10.
But then hang on, they're just industry specific constraints that you work into. Yeah.
So
and a system has to cater to an industry specific constraint.
And they do. But if you've got a company that's doing roadworks, and they're used to people being around a couple of meters, and they're also trying to review a loader on site, and they've got 8 meter exclusion zone. Are you saying that the loader that working on a road site is safe because you're 2 meters away from it, but a loader working at an aggregate site is safe because you're 8 meters away from it? It's the same machine doing the same job.
I see your point.
So yes, you're right. each industry and each vertical and each sort of activity uses their machine slightly differently. But fundamentally, it is still a loader and you're within X number of meters of it. So this is what is safe is an interesting and more complicated question that I sort of imagined. And then you get onto the issue of whose fault is this or whose problem is this? So if you're the safety team, there's a couple of considerations. You are reporting that your safety metrics are, your accident frequency rate is X. Now, based on a couple of reports I read, 25% of accidents are not reported. And therefore, how many near misses do you think are reported? I would suggest it's close to zero.
Yeah.
So if you're reporting your numbers as X, but the real number is 100X, and all of a sudden you start reporting those, there are going to be questions asked by executive. What happens to bonuses? What happens to KPIs and things like that? They all need to be reset. But we'll go one step further in construction in particular. If you're reporting your safety metrics as X, and all of a sudden you start reporting 100X, as a subcontractor who has to submit their safety data to the tier one when they're bidding, you're never going to win a job because you're viewed as unsafe. But actually, you're the only one reporting the real numbers.
Yeah.
So you need a sophisticated client to realize what's actually going on here. You're just reporting the automated numbers versus somebody who is reporting it based on the piece of paper that somebody filled in once a month.
This quantum shift's bound to happen, though, as soon as you automate the system. It will happen.
But you don't want to be first because you're trailblazing and are you going to win any work as a subcontractor? So you've paid all the money for the system and all of a sudden the tier ones don't want anything to do with you because you look unsafe.
And
so there are considerations.
And you're being punished for being the first and honestly reporting.
Exactly. So there's those sorts of considerations as well. And I don't know the answers to any of those questions. And I'm sure people who are listening will have many more ideas about when you start to automate these things. One of the biggest issues that I've found is when you have a near miss, however you want to define that, the typical response is everybody flies into site and they'll do an investigation. And as far as I can tell, it always boils down to operator said one thing, person on the ground said another thing, and nobody really knows.
Yeah.
That report gets written up and put on the CEO's desk because they have to sign off on it. I'm here to tell you that based on what we've seen, that there'll be a near miss broadly defined from every machine, every hour of every day. So your entire safety process is broken. So which do you actually review, and which do you have to fully investigate versus which ones can you just look at and go, okay, I can see what's happening here.
Yeah.
Because if you have a rule that says 5 meters is my exclusion zone, and anything within that constitutes a near miss, that is an unworkable safety system now because you're actually getting a video recording of every single one of those.
Yeah.
So what is your safety process? I don't know. And every company will come up with something slightly different.
For sure.
The CEO can't sign that off.
But at the end of the day, you just get back to the root cause of why we're doing all of this. One is to get people to their houses safely and to influence better behavior on site to keep everybody else around you safe. Those core objectives never change, though, do they? Doesn't matter what stats you collect. Doesn't matter what you do with the data. That's great. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to get everybody home. You're trying to influence good behavior on site.
Exactly right. And the processes that we have set up as an industry are probably not going to satisfy the requirements of those three things when you can start to automate all of this capture. So that's what I want, is for everybody to understand the risk and to see immediately it's that machine, it's that operation, it's that whatever it is, so that they can change the root cause. In an ideal world, we have no detections. You don't need our system.
Yeah.
I would love for that to be the case. No detections is the end goal. We will try and make it as easy as possible for people, but this is a fundamental shift in the near term for what people and how they think about safety.
Yeah.
So the safety teams and how people are thinking about safety, it's gone from a manual paper-based process to a fully automated thing with videos of everything.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a shift.
Yeah, massive shift. Yeah, mate, the work you're doing is super impressive. Like, this is crazy cool. I wish you guys all the best, and I'm sure you'll succeed. Just from what I've heard today, I'm sure the listeners will agree too. and hope you get the reach in the market, and some New Zealand companies reach out to you now and
Thank you.
and adopt your system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, as I said, it's always nice to be making a system that makes sure that people go home safe.
Yeah, it's quite important, isn't it? No. Okay, sure. Cut there. Did you have any questions for me?
I don't know. What do people normally ask you?
I don't know. Wing it.
I don't know. What question will I have for you?
You don't have to. You don't have to. Only if you wanted to. Because I'd love to throw something personal in there, because you keep talking about only podcasting and construction, and it gets pretty boring. You have a very niche market that listen to it. So
Right.
normally chucking a little bit of rugby, a little bit of, I don't know, something else in there.
No, I can't talk about that because we lost.
No.
I'm claiming a moral victory though, because we played most of it with a man down. So
yeah, well, you won the Cricket World Cup. Just saying.
I'm very much New Zealand when it comes to sports, because the Australians not so good at rugby. That's all I really care about.
Rugby's all you care about. Fair enough. Now, if there's nothing else, I'm happy to kind of stop the recording now.
Is there anything else? Anything we've missed? Is that long enough? Is it interesting enough?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. There'll be some really cool 1 minute snips that come out of it, and I'm sure the team will pick it up and do what they normally do.
Okay.
Let me just stop the recording.
Do you need any pictures or videos or